Hey y'all, welcome to Facing the 50s. My name's Deanne. Today I'm going to share with you the #1 mistake that beginners make when using Seint Foundation. And I'm going to give you 5 tips to keep that from happening to you. So if you're interested or curious to hear, just keep watching. Okay, are you ready? Do you want to hear the #1 mistake that I see or I hear? I've made it myself, so I know it is using too much product. So these creams are so pigmented that when I say a little goes a long way, I mean a little goes a long way. You do not have to use much. You want to work in thin layers, you want to build, you want to use the color combinations that I've shared with you in your color match to help you get the look that you're wanting. So I've got a few tips here that I'm going to share with you that will help you if you're using too much. So the first tip, and for me, this was a biggie. It took me a while to learn it and to figure it out. I had to play with it a little bit, and then it was a game changer for me. So the first tip is to put your makeup on backwards. So what do I mean by that? I know forever I had always just taken whatever foundation I was going to use and put it all over my face to cover everything and blank everything out, so I had this nice canvas to then go in and paint whatever I wanted on. What I'm going to suggest to you is you don't want to do that because our creams, our highlights, which is the foundation, they are creamier, and if you go in and you put that all over, then you're more likely to have stickiness and tackiness. So by putting your makeup on backwards, I mean start with your contour. So that's what we're going to do. So I've got my little daily palette here that I use, and I'm just going to tap a little here into my contour, and I'm going to start with it. And usually I would have put all of my quote-unquote foundation highlight on already. So let me get my contour put on. Now don't worry, it does take a little getting used to. It looks a little weird. It'll all blend out in the end, but it is a little strange to start with your contour. It's kind of the same concept. I started doing my eyes first many years ago because if I had fallout or something like that, I didn't want to have to redo this part of my makeup. And so I'm just used to, but when you do your eyes first, it looks kind of weird sometimes, but I'm just used to it now. So it's just one of those things that you just practice it a little bit and you'll get used to it. So I'm putting my contour on, basically in the shape, of a 3 and an E. That's kind of a general guideline. It's something that, based on your face shape and what you're trying to accomplish, you may want to contour a little bit differently. I can help you with that. If you're one of my clients, let me know. I can tell you where I think you should contour to achieve what you're wanting to achieve. All right, so I've started with my contour, and I already know that I'm going to want a little bit more. That was one thing when I first started. I would barely use any contour. I was kind of scared of it, I guess. But now, it's like I can't get enough contour. Okay, so I got my contour going there. So working backwards still, I'm still not ready to put on my main highlight color. What I'm going to do is a little bit of color correction where I need it. So I'm going to go grab a little bit of Mango, which is my color corrector. I'm going to tap in, and then I'm just going to buff that where I need it. Now, if you told me that you had redness or hyperpigmentation or one of those issues when you submitted your color match, I would have suggested whichever color corrector I thought was right for you, along with where you should use it. So just because I'm using it in these places doesn't necessarily mean those are the places that you would use it. But that's what I share with you in your color match, so that you can get the best look that you want. And so I'm buffing this in to really work it into the skin. Because with Mango, it's one that we use quite a bit for color correction. And if you use too much of it, you're going to start to look orangey. And not only will you feel tacky and sticky, but you'll start to, look orange and too warm and not necessarily like that. Now, a little bit of warmth is okay, because a lot of times I'm trying to give you a little warmth to match your neck. So, my face is a little bit lighter than my neck and my chest anyway. So I put a little on for warmth. And then I tone it down with a neutral color. So I've got other tutorials out there about that. So I don't want to get too off track, or we could be here forever. But anyway, if you're seeing orange, you may be using too much or not buffing it in enough. Okay, so I've got that. I'm also going to take and just dip my finger in slightly, get a little bit for underneath my eyes, just to start color correcting that darkness that I have. Again, if it's showing up orange, you're using too much. Just want the tiniest amount. And when I dipped my finger in, I tapped. Like, that was all I did, just a quick little tap. The next step for me now would be I'm going to go in with my main highlight. Before I do that, I'm going to hop to another one of my tips, and it is to use your perfector in between layers. I include this in any color match that's for a new user or someone who is using multiple colors, like a color corrector and then a main highlight, because you're going to be putting them on top of each other. And what this does is when you tap it, it will help remove any excess so that you don't have thick layers going on. Now, you can see that this is our perfector. I have run it under some water. I run it under water. I squeeze, I squeeze, I squeeze. I put it in a towel. I squeeze, I squeeze, I squeeze. And then I really just set and let it kind of air dry for probably 20 minutes while I go take a shower. And then while I start the rest of my eyes and all of that, until it's just barely damp. And you can see the difference here. So this one's dirty because it's been removing excess. So here's the size of it when it's wet, and here's a brand new one. So it almost doubles in size and gets super soft. So don't get it right. Like, if you get it and use it right out of the tin like this, that's not going to do anything for you. So you definitely want to get it wet and let it dry to where it's just barely damp. I love the perfector. I almost skipped it when I first started using this foundation when I was ordering it, because I thought, that's ridiculous. It was what, $13, $14, I can't remember now. You know, who needs a sponge for that? Well, I won't be without it now because I have reaped the benefits of it. So not only does it remove excess, it helps kind of blend some of those edges. Okay, so I perfected. Now, the next tip has to do with when you are putting on your, well, any of them, but mainly when you're putting on your main highlight color. Okay, and by main highlight, I mean, for me, it's going to be, let's see if I can do this without blinding you. Right here for me, so this was Mango that I used to color correct. This is Candlelit, which is my main highlight, and this one's White Peach, which I'll use for brightening. So when I get ready to go in and use my main highlight, what I want to do, and I want to remember this anytime, so I did the same thing when I did the Mango as the color correct, but I want to tap. Okay, so you can see there's barely anything on there. What I don't want to do, and this is going to be painful for me because it hurts, what I don't want to do is take the brush, and I'm taking the one that had the Mango on it, but I don't want to swipe. I don't want to push down. I don't want to push down and swipe it in, and so you can see kind of this more neutrally area there. That's how much I got on there versus the tiny bit that I got on when I tapped in. So tap, don't swipe. Don't be a swiper, be a tapper. And then I just tap it in to the areas where I need it. Let me pin this back. It's kind of driving me bonkers. Okay, so I just tap that in where I need it. Anywhere that I put the Mango, I'm going to put this on top of it so that it can tone that down just a little bit. You can already see the difference. So over here, so I've got a little of the Mango over here to kind of color correct the redness, but here I've added the Candlelit on top, and I'm starting to look more pulled together. So another tap, and I'll go up here to make sure everything's merged into that contour really well and there aren't any lines. All right, now another tap. Go right here. I'm tapping right here instead of swirling so that I don't move all of that mango that I just did. And I can tell, like, this looks severe in the camera, but really in person it doesn't. And if you get on your, because one thing, I've got sun damage right there, so it's dark enough as it is. I didn't really need to put anything on it. But if it is too dark, you can work to blend it out. I mean, you can use a lighter color, or you can always just take a little bit of your highlight and dab right over that bottom part of it. Our contours are drier, so I'm not as concerned about, you know, you putting a little bit on top of it. I don't think you'll put enough that it causes any issue. Go back to our perfector. Definitely want to perfect after you put on one of the highlight colors. All right. Now, here's another thing that I do. You remember I put on a little bit of mango underneath my eyes. I will dip into the Candlelit, that same color that I just put in all of those other areas, and I'm going to put it right on top of that mango. And what that does is it cools down the warmth of mango. It starts to make everything look even, and starts to build that coverage. So you can see a difference here between this eye and this eye. So this eye has the color correcting, but it doesn't have the main highlight color. Let me use a little brush, put that on there. Okay, and then you know what I'm gonna do? Let's grab that perfector, especially under the eyes, because I'm gonna end up using 3 highlight colors underneath the eyes, and I have to remove excess in between so that I don't get anything creasing, because if you've got too much, it's just physics. It's just gonna do it. So, all right, so you can see things are evening out here, looking pretty good. The last thing that I want to do is I want to go in with a little bit of a brightening color. So I'm going to grab White Peach for me right here, and just put a little on the inside and the outside, and then I just kind of work it out. I don't necessarily go right up under the eye, because sometimes if you go too far up under the eye, you're going to close in your eye and make it look smaller. And our goal is to really open our eyes here. So I kind of come down here. I don't put a lot of product, so let me show you to make sure I didn't just kind of skip over that. So I took my brush, I tapped it in, and then I tapped a little bit on the outside, I tapped a little on the inside, so that the majority of it was on those 2 points, the anchor points, I guess. And then I'm just kind of tapping it around to get it to connect. Okay, I like to also highlight right in the center, so I'm going to do that. I like to highlight right down my nose. And when I say highlight right down my nose, I don't mean something shimmery and glittery and that's going to shine. I just like to get a little bit of that lightness, this lighter color. I also come in right around the nose because I get dark there, and I highlight my chin. Okay, you know what's coming next, don't you? Perfector Sponge. So that was my 3rd layer underneath my eyes, so I definitely want to make sure that I have taken off any excess. So anywhere I have put that. All right, I think we are ready now for some lip and cheek. I am going to put on Cindy, one of my absolute all-time faves. Oh, y'all, anytime I put it on, just the minute I put it on, I'm like, can we just stop a minute and appreciate how beautiful Cindy is? Cindy's gorgeous. Just gorgeous. All right. I could go crazy with blush too. I just like putting it on, so I have to stop myself. Okay, so the tips so far have been put your makeup on backwards. Start with that contour first. To make sure that we tap and don't swipe into the creams. No need to swipe. They are very pigmented, so tapping and using small layers or thin layers will help you. And then thirdly, making sure that you're using that Perfector sponge. Your Perfector sponge will be one of your best friends. So 2 more tips that I have for you here quickly. What you may want to do is try a different brush. So you know the blush and bronzer brush is one of my favorites. I love it because this end right here is dense and it's just perfect for packing on foundation. But if you're getting too much with using that brush, then try a different one. So try the blend brush. Now this one is quite a bit smaller. Let me hold the 2 up together so you can see. I mean, it's quite a bit smaller. This is the end of it versus this end, and then there's the fluffy end. So if you're going to use this end to try to do your whole face, it's going to take you a minute, but you'll put on less product because you can only put on so much. But I do love this sometimes for in the summer, you know, when I'm wanting that super most natural look that I can get, I will use this. Now you can even use this end for highlight too. So this is not one that I usually recommend to beginners because I think you have to play with it a little bit to be able to get the look that you want. You absolutely can, but I think you have to play with it a little bit before that you can get there. And it's usually when you're more familiar with the makeup and how it works that you're able to make this one work. So, but I love it. I use this one every day. A lot of times for underneath my eyes. I will use it for blush. I'll use it for illuminator. So it's a wonderful, wonderful brush. And something that if the blush and bronzer one is just putting on too much product, then you may want to try this. I'll also throw in there, so if you're using the buff brush, so this one is our one that puts on the most full coverage, so it's super densely packed. Mine's a little dirty, but it's super densely packed on both ends. It's great for what it does, but if you're not used to the power of these creams, you may be putting too much on by using this. So think of it like, I think in one of my videos before I said, think of it like spaghetti. I know I have a tendency to way overcook spaghetti when I cook, and I don't mean too long, I mean like too much, because you've got this little bit of spaghetti and you're putting it in there and you're thinking there's no way that's going to be enough spaghetti, but it is enough spaghetti. So think of it this way, use about half of what you think you should use, and then that's probably about the amount that will work for you. So I need to remember that when I'm cooking, and we all need to remember that when we're using these creams. So you definitely don't have to use a whole lot. Now my last tip for you really has to do with the colors that you pick. So if it is feeling cakey and sticky and tacky, you know, what does that have to do with the colors, you may think? Well, if you are trying to use a highlight that is too light, and you're having to put more and more of it on to get the coverage that you want, it's going to feel sticky and tacky. So that's why we implement the use of a color corrector, you know, either amber or mango or papaya, just kind of depends on what's going on your face. When we do that, you can use so much less product and still get that coverage that you want. So using the wrong colors might actually lead to you using too much and it feeling cakey or sticky or tacky. So I think that's it. Those are a few of the tips. I've got more that I can share in future videos, and I absolutely will. Questions that you have, definitely drop them below. They're always helpful as I'm putting together video ideas, and I'm glad to answer anything that I can. With that being said, I will throw out there, if you need a color match, my color match form is listed below. So just fill that out and send it over to me, and I will get a response to you. And with that being said, I appreciate you spending a little bit of time with me today. Thank you so much, and I will see you in the next video.